Hello everyone, good evening. Uh, uh, Thank you for giving so much of response and love to my previous videos. I've been getting a lot of good feedback for all my previous videos that I have uploaded. It is with respect to the malwares, threat investigations, digital forensics, and the incident response. Lately I've been getting a lot of requests in like how we actually tackle these types of incidents when real time scenario or a real time attacks that happen. So for and how we write such incident playbooks that whenever such incident happens, whether it is for ransomware, DDoS, some breaches, uh, somebody get an access to internal active directory or to the cloud environment, and they got an access to the critical data, restricted data in any organization. So what steps and who all are should be included in those during those incidents. Recently we all know that Oracle is being breached, and currently Oracle is keep on denying the fact that some breach have happened, and it is keep on giving all the assurances to the customers that no data has been leaked. But we all know that the recently the attacker has published a lot of data on the dark web. And with the response to Oracle that the breach have actually happened. So so playbooks are basically designed, during that time, during those incidents, to tackle those incidents and and provide a faster response to the customers to recover fastly from those incidents and attacks. So I've been getting a lot of and like I've been designing these playbooks from long. I have designed playbooks for multiple organizations during my freelance time, a long back basically during my freelance time. And whenever some breaches happened, these playbooks actually being activated automatically, like what teams are to be included, how the CSIRT team, which is Computer Security Incident Response team, or in short, some books or some uh, publications and some websites also call it as the CERT, which is the Cyber Incident Response Team, which is a cooler name to computer, to the previous CSIRT name. But we, we as in generic, design the CSIRT team or a CERT team in every organization. We sit down for longer hours. We sit down with multiple teams, understand their roles and responsibilities, how the infrastructure is. If let's suppose if an attacker runs a password spray attack on the Azure AD, and he gets some accounts which are generic accounts and there is no MFA enabled. If he gets an access to Azure AD maybe, and lately gets and escalate privileges and gets access to AZ resources, or similar for AWS or similar for GCP, or if an attacker gets an access to some external portal, he or she uploads some malicious files, gets an access to the DMZ server. From DMZ, they jump internal to, internal systems, compromise AD, sister domains, forest becomes forest admin, become the database administrator, dump the databases and whatnot. So these playbooks are for the post incidents. Many organizations, when we are doing the interviews, we get to see that post incident is fine, but what about the pre incident? No, the answer is very wrong. Pre incident is all taken care when you take care of your red teams and your threat huntings. So whenever you are doing the red teams in the organizations, means the offensive security testing and the VATTs, along with your threat hunting teams, your blue teams are there. Those teams identify the threats, identify the loopholes, they do the breaches, and they perform all these actions, and they identify all these actions to safeguard the organization from happening the pre-incidents. But these playbooks are being written for the post-incident, for the post-incidents. So, but these post-incident doesn't mean that these post-incidents will will not help you to recover or to stop the attack or to recover or to recover from the attack. So for an example, because incidents will happen 100%. Whenever I am giving any training to some place, my first answer to every place is that incidents will happen 100%. There is no way that you can stop any incident, but you can actually safeguard the organizations by from converting that incident into a breach. So you can stop the breaches, but incidents will happen for sure. None of the organization in the world is bulletproof. You yourself has seen the Oracle, which is the perfect example, which have happened recently. Microsoft, Facebook, Google, you name the Apple, you name the organizations, and you will get to see the incidents. Recently, Twitter has also published a report that they are being targeted as the top priority organization in the world with the full DDoS, with DDoS. Recently, a pro-activist group name as No Name has come out with the huge DDoS attacks in around the globe. The Middle East, Europe is fully affected with that. Asia regions are fully affected with that. So these playbooks are written to protect these organizations from the post incidents and recover back from the post incidents. So always remember incidents will happen, but but it is a responsibility of the security teams to not let those incidents convert into breach. So this video will guide you complete complete practically but in a theoretical way to understand how playbooks are being written, what playbooks are, what incident response is, what teams are involved, how to involve the teams, what communications to be done, where the legal will come in the picture, how to communicate things to the customers or to the vendors. If there is a supply chain attack that is happening, how to confirm for that, how to let that supply chain not hindering your customers or the vendors, and so on. So let's start with this. So introduction, uh, incident response in short, IR is a structured approach for addressing and managing cybersecurity incidents in any organization, irrespective of the type of organization it is, whether it is retail, whether it is whether it is some other organization, whether it is a bank, whether it is a telecommunication, and whether it is some government organizations. IR playbooks play an important role in each and every organization. Why? Because it involves a series of actions, procedures, policies, which are being designed to identify, mitigate, recover from security incidents effectively. Now, the primary goal of any incident response is to minimize the impact of the incidents that are happening on an organization operations, reputation, and data integrity. So what is the role of IR in organization in short? Minimize damage, reduce downtime, preserve data, identify the source, prevent future incidents, legal and regulatory compliance, maintain customer support, forensic analysis, communication, and incident documentation. In short, we will keep this video short. We will not increase this video too long, but covering all the major uh, 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 aspects of IR. So after this video, you will be able to design. I have taken one example of designing an IR playbook, but after this video, you will be able to design the IR playbooks for each and every incident that is happening in any organization. So what are the benefits of incident response? So, incident response is a comprehensive practice vital in safeguarding organizations against cybersecurity threats. It's a proactive and adaptive nature, helps organizations minimize damage, recover from incidents, strengthen their security. Now, let us look at the IR lifecycle to understand more in depth to design some of the to design to approach to design and follow the same to perform investigation under forensic analysis during incidents. But before going to, in designing that, let's look at some of the advantages of incident response. The main advantages of incident response are early threat detections, means uh, incident response helps to detect the threats which are emerging or the incidents in early stages, whether it is via the threat intelligence, whether it is via your SOC, whether it is via your threat management tools, whether it is via your loopholes or some not, and it will help to identify the incident to stop the infection to the critical systems. Hence, it is always being recommended that whenever any incidents happen, or from converting those incidents to breach, a proper training is being provided to the IR teams. Okay, for the threats and incidents that are emerging in the global market. So, for an example, in red team, basically organizations goes for offensive security testing, but whenever we see the offensive security testing nowadays, we are seeing the level of offensive testing is going down day by day. They just come, they bypass NAC, they try to compromise AD, doesn't happen. They try to bypass email security, doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that email security don't have loopholes, but the amount of technical skills that are required to design the malwares in the form of PDFs or documents or all the stuff is really going down. I have created a lot of videos during my red team time, and we have bypassed almost all the email securities, EDRs, XDRs, to to escalate privileges, because it all involves the passion. If you have the passion for something, you will be able to bypass it. And once we understand, and of course, we need passion to understand the technology as well. But nowadays, everybody wants cut short thing. That is not going to help in the real world. So you do the offensive training, you do the offensive testing, you get a certificate, your organization safe. The next day, your organization could be shut down. So make sure that whenever such offensive testings are being done, you take proper interviews of those people. I always go for the practical approaches of those people before giving any projects to anyone. Another is the containment and eradication. Our teams are always trained with a single aim, is to contain and eradicate the threats effectively, because the the main area of containment is to not let converting that incident to breach. This usually happens, by identifying the crown jewels, and generally whenever these containments have happened, the organization, they cut the connectivity to the crown jewels. For an example, you have a complete data store of customer data. So what organizations they do, they cut the connectivity between the crown jewels, means the data store of those customers or the customers data or the organization data, and they start isolating the infected zones after that. And once they identify the affected zones, they start taking the actions. So this is how we generally and effectively perform the containment and eradication. We have already seen in my previous videos that whenever you identify the IOCs, you immediately put it in your EDRs and your other security solutions. For example, IPs, you start cutting the communications in between immediately. This is how the immediate and prompt actions are being taken. But what about after that? These are being defined in the IR playbooks. Then, of course, is the main important point is the coordination and collaboration. Uh, your this particular IR playbooks plays a vital role in bringing all the different teams from different departments of the organizations together. And for an example, your IT team, security operations, red teams, blue teams, SOC, your NOC, legal, HR, executive teams work together, and other executive teams, those who work together, ensuring that these incidents that have uh, that have taken place can now be eradicated, and all the teams are working collaboratively and collectively to safeguard the organization. Then we have the third party relationships. uh, IR is completely dependent on the third party relationships are for IR. So IR is defined to maintain the third party relationships because your vendors, your partners, your customers are totally dependent on your information as well. If you get breached, your vendors can get breached, your customers can get breached. You might have some integrations to third parties, to some other customers, maybe to some other vendors as well, to some other partners as well. So if you got breached, there are more chances that some other critical organization can also be used. So for an example, there is a bank, and in order to run a bank, not everything can be hosted on-prem or in the cloud. They, of course, have to uh, attract the customers, and many a times they integrate with the customer analytics portals. Okay, for example, AWS has Kinesis. Similarly, there are third-party websites as well, and they connect with those. So if you got breached, there are chances that using those integrations, those critical organizations can also be breached. Or if they get breached, it can also happen that you can get breached. So IR not only maintains that, but it also teaches you how to sorry, how to inform the customers, vendors, partners, who are working closely with your organization from business perspective, relationship perspective, how to inform them effectively and tell them 100 and tell them transparently that what is being breached, and what was the incident, what is being breached, what breaches, how much, how much is the damage. But we are safeguarding you and securing your data in a prompt way. That, for an example, a breach have happened, but the customer data is secured. Even of course there is some loss, but the customer data gets secured. So it means your relationship with the customers that helps to maintain the business is secure. So IR teaches, of course, this thing very effectively. Then we have training and awareness. Of course, IR provides an in-depth training for the cyber awareness. In during the CSIRT simulations, or we call it as the IR simulations, it provides the in-depth incidents with the real-time scenarios. For an example, almost all organizations, they perform the cyber awareness trainings, which includes your real-time phishing. If you get phished, you have to perform a training. But I have seen personally that many organizations, they just do it for the sake of some certifications or some insurances or something like that, which should be stopped immediately. They should actually work properly. Those trainings should have proper malware simulations, ransomware simulations, DDoS attacks on maybe some VR systems that are being created for such purposes. There should be proper honeypots that will be evaluating that sort of environment, and so on. So IR gives a holistic view to any organization that where your organization is currently standing whenever an attack happens. Uh, Business continuity. The next part is business continuity. Of course, the main purpose of designing any IR playbook is business continuity. Because if business is not operational during an attack, for example, a DDoS attack have happened. Now, if the whole business is down, then what is the benefit of having a security team and or IT team or operations team or not? The organization is spending millions and millions of dollars, on these teams, okay, on tools, on multiple things. Sim is super costly nowadays. It is coming in so much of dollars that the licenses are so costly. But if the SOC fails to discover an incident, then what is the benefit of SOC? So it doesn't matter if you are detecting 1,000 incidents in a day. Okay, if one incident gets breached, there is no meaning of having the SOC because the business is down. The whole point of every organization is to run the business. Okay, business cannot go down. if there is a DDoS attack that have happened, immediately the load have to shift to the other links or to the DRs or to the other environments so that the business should run. Business should not go down at any cost. So always remember the whole point of designing IR is to run the business. Then of course we have incident reporting. IR helps the teams with clear reporting structures, that is established in the organization, that will help to facilitate incident reporting. That is clear cut. Threat intelligence. The threat intelligence plays a very, very important role whenever an IR playbook is being written because it includes your major TTPs, which is nothing but your tactics, techniques, and procedures, which is being used by the threat actors. So if you know the type of TTP that is going on during an attack, you will be immediately find a solution to stop that attack. For an example, you might have got the hash of the file, or you might have got the your SOC might have detected a password is going on, but from which source is the actual source, or it is the source is the bot of the actual attacker source. So for example, attacker has compromised a system or a user, he logged into one system, he created a persistence in a system, but he's using another system to do the password spray attack, okay, using some other ID, it means using some other domain ID. So if an attacker is using some other domain ID, you reach to that particular person, okay, which is being compromised, another person which is being compromised. But what about if the domain admin is compromised? Will you be able to reach to that? No. But if you know the type of TTP or the technique that is being used in here, your prompt action and your brain will work faster and prompt that this is just what we call it as a deviation. The real source could be somewhere else. Okay. So threat intelligence plays a very vital role, and nowadays, I am seeing a lot of organizations are hiring the threat intelligence analyst to identify such things. So if you have seen my previous videos, you will see that in every video I have showcased the TTPs, the IOCs discovered, because these things are the baseline for any detections and any detections and early and prompt actions to mitigate the risk. Then of course the what we call it as a regulatory license. I think I have missed the data recovery. Of course, this will help us to recover the data in faster terms. Then we have regulatory license in which is nothing but in cases where the regulatory authorities need to be informed, I will do the communication and reporting requirements in proper format as per the regulations. For an example, if an attack happens and there is a customer sitting in England or in London or maybe or UK, so the legal court that will take care of the matter, it has to be in the form of that particular regulatory uh, body that we are being informed. So every regulatory body, every country has their different approach of handling the incidents and informing the incidents and designing and writing the cases in the courts, which is completely different. So this IR playbook helps in writing those reports as well. Risk management, public relation uh, is similar. We have already discussed that. Uh, Legal support, of course, legal will come into picture whenever there is an incident and whenever the communication has to go out or whenever there is a case that has to be put on file. Then whenever an organization has to file a case against another organization, it will go through the legal matters and the long-term resilience, of course. Without that, though, IR playbook cannot even exist. So any IR playbook, it contributes to the organization's long-term resilience by evolving continuously the incident response capabilities and staying ahead of emerging threats. these are some of the benefits of IR. This if somebody learns to design the incident response, and if the organizations they implement a proper IR teams and IR playbooks in the organizations, the amount of breaches will go down 100%. I'm not saying that incident will not happen or some breaches will not happen, but the amount of damage will be lower for 100%. So always remember, a strong playbook and a strong CERT team is very much required in every organization. So this is an incident response life cycle. So how the incident response life cycle builds up. The very first stage is the preparation. The second stage is the identification. Then we have containment, eradication, recovery, lessons learned, communication, legal consideration, and the continuous improvement. So this is how the incident response life cycle works. I'll go in much deeper. Let's understand that in the next slides. So this is the playbook design cycle. How a playbook design cycle is being written. It is nothing but a structured document that outlines and defines the procedure and actions that any organization must follow whenever there is a security incident or a breach, because it provides a step-by-step guide in identifying, containing, eradication, and recovering from the security incidents with minimizing the potential damage, and it also ensures the compliance with the legal and the regulatory bodies of that particular country. So let's try to design a playbook. But so I have taken an example from the malware journey, that how a malware might have attacked. There must be certain steps that a malware must be performing, whenever any incident or a breach has to take place. So for an example, a malware has to that an attacker has to send a malware. So there will be possible ways of doing it. There will be multiple other ways, but I have tried to generalize this way. By phishing attack, uh, the attacker might be doing some password spray or brute force attack, where after getting an access to some portal, he might upload the malicious files, in the form of some Excel sheets or something. But the main goal is to land on the either the server or the user machine. Or there could be another way, that for example, nowadays if you see that the organizations which are designing the cloud, or which are very new to the cloud, they are putting their EC2 instances or AZVMs publicly on internet, and they are keeping the RDP open, and the attackers are leveraging those to directly land onto the systems. So these could be some of the ways that an attacker gains an access. So what after that? Attacker will infect the other systems, control the full domain or the persistence. Then uh, attacker will perform the data exfiltration, damage the infrastructure, or encrypts the data and whatnot. And then it will ask for the ransom. So this is a small malware journey that happens whenever an attacker wants to send a malware or compromise any infra or the cloud systems. This is the malware journey. But you can define your own incidents. For an example, DDoS or a brute force. You can actually divide these into multiple things. Uh, Compromise the system from external systems exposed, and so on. So you can go to Shodan, look for your organization systems, or maybe census. You get a dump of those. You can run the OSINT tools. I have there are two videos where I have set up my own OSINT investigation lab, whenever there are OSINT we have to perform on anywhere, what type of lab is being set up, you can go to and look to those videos. They're very helpful. And whenever I used to give the OSINT investigation trainings, the very first thing is that I spent most of the time in designing the lab, because if your knife is sharpened, it is best way to win a war. So it is being said. So if your lab is completely set up, is properly set up, you can actually perform the investigations very smoothly. So let's start designing uh, the playbooks. So the very first phase is the preparation. In the preparation, generally we define the CI/CD team with proper roles and profiles. So how we go with that? So we go to multiple teams, we go to multiple people, we understand the infrastructure, we define each and every role, that this person is doing this. For example, there is an IT manager. IT manager role is to handle the IT stuff, which will include your cloud, your on-prem infra, your network team, your NOC team, server team, your backup team, your VMware team, your so and so on. Then there will be another team which will be your security manager, who will be taking care of your offensive and defensive things. There will be regulatory compliance things that will be happening. There will be an operation teams that will be there from the security perspective, who will be taking care of your configurations. Then another team will configurations like your firewall configurations, or your EDR configurations, or your other security configurations. So to understand the team, the architecture, the structure, there will be a developers teams as well. There will be DevOps teams as well. There will be a DevSecOps teams as well, and so on. So every organization has a different set of teams whose roles. There will be a database team as well, whose roles and responsibilities are defined. So very first thing is, whenever we are preparing, we understand the uh, organization structure. Once we understand the organization structure, then we start understanding the organization architecture. Then we go to some extended teams. Extended teams, usually your executives, your professional services leads, managers, your comms team, legal team, HR, business, your retail, your telecommunications, and so on. Then we define the escalation metrics: internal escalation, external escalation and communication, and then proper escalation and documentation. So this is the first phase where we are doing the preparation. Then then is the second phase, which is the identification phase, which is very, very critical, because in identification phase, we identify the crown jewels. Here we try to identify the systems which are very, very critical to any organization. So I have taken out some systems as generic systems, which will completely differ in each and every organization, but are part of each and every organization. So for an example, servers, end user machines, cloud instances, backup servers, and so on. Okay, your databases, I'm your databases, and so on. Now, what could be the affected crown jewels? Your O65 cloud email exchange gateway, because it might be connected. I will come to that particular part when I will reach over there. Your PI customer data, your databases, and so on. Okay. Then affected services, the business impact on what? Okay, business impact on what? The applications, the API calls, the services, the end-to-end communication. Maybe there are some DB strings and so on. Then we'll come back to the malware entry point. So what are the malware entry point? Applications, your O65 cloud gateway, which are directly connected to your end user machines. So for example, if any organization has the O65 setup as an SSO, a user compromises any system and anywhere, means a user compromises one system and he will be able to SSO into almost all the entire applications, whether, for example, SharePoint, whether it is your OneDrive, whether it is your internal applications, whether it is your cloud applications, or many where I have seen that even the same AD credentials or the Azure AD credentials are being used to log into the cloud as well, and that too without MFAs. So those things could affect whenever there is a malware entry point. So if an infection happens, so what will happen? Full environment scan. Okay. Then what are the log collections in this identification phase? It will be your XDRs, your firewalls, SIM is super critical. Make sure that all your critical assets report to SIM, IDS, and all other security solutions. For an example, WAF, for an example, cloud firewall, for an example, your VNet logs, for example, your network logs, and so on. Maybe you're containing from some network security devices. Okay, those will cover in your like SD-WANs. Those will cover in your other security solutions. Then vulnerability is exploited. If a malware gets an entry point, there will be chances how the malware will widespread. There will be unknown vulnerabilities in the database. There will be known vulnerabilities in the database. So this is the phase 2. Then what is the phase 3? Well, let's suppose already an incident have happened. So the next phase is to containment and eradication. So how we will contain and eradication, I have separated into two parts. The very first is is always the log analyzers. Whenever logs are being analyzed, make sure that you identify the TTPs and IOCs immediately. Whatever the IOCs you are being able to identify, as much as you identify, start cutting down the services, start cutting down the communications, your firewalls, your EDRs, your WAF, and so on. Okay. So how we will contain it? We will isolate the affected system by disabling the services. We isolate the scoundrels by blocking the communications on the firewall. We perform the cyber forensics. In my previous videos, I have showcased some of the examples for cyber forensics. We will update the threat actor database. So every organization has their own threat actor database, and they can also use the online portals as well, where they can go and create the pulses. Once they create the pulse, they will be able to add their own TTPs and IOCs over there, where all other organizations like VirusTotal and so on will take on those pulses and start updating the databases on. We can quarantine the affected zone using the EDRs. We can scan the entire infrastructure after that. We can remove the infections or malware spread on the identified systems. We can update the SIM rules for further detections. So this is how you contain and eradicate. Phase 4 is the recovery. The recovery is pretty straightforward. You should have the backup systems always ready. You should have your user data backed up in OneDrives. All critical files should be placed in one folder, and it always should be backed up every time. So OneDrive is the best part, where OneDrive, and whenever you are seeing whenever you are logging out and you are not using the system, make sure your OneDrive is disconnected at that time. So in recovery phase, we have divided into two parts. One is the system recovery and one is the data recovery. System recovery is your reimaging the system, and the data recovery will be your data each day. Phase 5 is nothing but your incident review. What incident have happened, lessons learned, and lessons applied. So incident review, it will come with the documentation. Once we do the documentation, a legal and law enforcement will come into picture. If an external party will be an external party is in the picture. If there is no external party, organization usually do not bring legal and law enforcement, but they communicate it internally. The the amount of damage that have happened with the incident. Lessons learned. We define the lessons learned using what are the loopholes that were being identified using this particular incident. For an example, a DDoS have happened. What was the DDoS reason? There is no DDoS protection available at all. So this is nothing but a loophole or is a gap that has been identified during that particular time. So lessons applied, update the threat indicators, update the risk factors, bring the right tools if required. So what are the points to remember? That incident response plays a vital role during any incident investigation in any organization. All organizations should define their CSIT team or SOT team organically so that they can handle any attack. All the IR playbooks should be mapped to the required DFIR framework. So during the attack, the extract pattern should be mapped to the required framework. For an example, during a malware attack, credential dumping is being identified, hence it should be mapped to MITRE framework credential dumping tactic. IR lifecycle should be followed in structural format as per the organization's requirement. IR playbook should be defined based on as per the attack type and as per the critical business applications and its corresponding infrastructure. So incident response. I hope by now you might have got an idea how the incident response playbook works. In cut short, we perform the preparation. How we do the preparation? We go to each and every team member. We go to each and every team. We understand the organization structure. Once we understand the organization structure, we start writing the playbook based on the organizational structure, that whose responsibility is what. For an example, the responsibility of the CISO will always be over there. The responsibility, the CSAT team manager will be the leading person who will be communicating between the on-ground team and the CISO and other managers. The on-ground team, there will be a lead who will be leading the on-ground team to eradicate that particular threat. There will be a war room that will be set up. All teams have to be present in that war room. There will be a timely communication that will be done between by the CSRT manager to the CISO and other stakeholders. Uh, the on-ground team will be identifying the type of threat. They will be mitigating the threat. They will be defining their they will be following the playbook. They will be defining the type of tactic that has been identified here. Once that is done, once the containment is done, then the on-ground team will work on the eradication. Once the eradication is done, the on-ground team and the CSAD manager will identify the amount of damage that have happened. They will prepare a report. Once the report is being prepared, they will provide it to the CISO and the other stakeholders. If there is an external comms required, the legal and the law enforcement teams will come into picture. Once they are into picture, that they will provide all the external communications to the respective stakeholders, uh, including their clients, including their vendors, including their partners, including their third-party services, including their customers, and so on. If there is no external comms required, then it is the responsibility of the CISO to inform each and every stakeholders in the war room that the amount of damage that have happened. Then the teams will learn their lessons. They will perform the gap analysis. Once the gap analysis has been done, they will perform the respective actions and then the so that the same attack should not happen anytime. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Uh, I hope you have learned something new. I have tried to compile a long thing into crux of how we define the IR playbooks. I have taken one example, but there are multiple examples in the book that I have written. You can actually go and check those chapters in the book where we have defined certain things. I have taken a similar kind of example there and you can utilize it. You can define your own. I have tried to compile it into a shorter term, into a shorter form, but it is written in complete elaborative way in that. So I hope you will enjoy this video as well. And do check my book. You will enjoy a lot. I have tried to add a lot of practical examples whenever I am performing the digital forensics based on my experiences and based on the type of threats that I am looking at on daily basis. So I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you everyone, and Eid Mubarak and Ram Navami to everyone out there. Hope you have a wonderful leaves holidays during these days. Thank you everyone.